Hello and welcome to the Lookout podcast. Across this series you'll be hearing from professionals from a range of creative industries and backgrounds share information on how they've developed a successful career. In this episode you'll be hearing from Rosie Powell, Rifa Thorpe-Tracey and Charlotte Vivian as they give their advice on working as a freelancer.
My name's Rosie Powell and I am a freelance photographer and filmmaker.
So my name is Rifa Thorpe-Tracey. I run a company called Refigure and I coach and mentor mostly women who work in tech.
And my name is Charlotte Vivian and I'm going to be talking a bit about my career within the arts, education and as a freelancer. So currently my roles as a freelancer are quite varied, and I have three main roles within companies that I do at the moment. So I am co-director of Lookout and a producer at Big Egg Films and a development director at Komedia Productions.
So my idea of a freelancer is someone that doesn't have one boss and is their own boss, and I don't think you necessarily need to be a freelancer specifically for one job role. I know a lot of people that work in the creative industry that are an overall freelancer and they will work on a variety of different projects in different roles.
The biggest thing, I suppose, the best piece of advice I would say to people is that when you're starting out, it's really hard to be your own boss. So you have to motivate yourself. There's no boss, there's nobody telling you what to do. So as a freelancer, you might get hired by somebody and they are technically your boss, you know, they're going to pay you, but you're the expert. So you're the one that has to be confident enough to say, this is what we're going to do, or I'm not sure that's the right thing, or because they might not know at all. So for example, if I hire a person to come and take photos at one of my events, I've got other things to think about. I've got to think about the people speaking, I've got to think about the audience coming, I've got to think about the venue and the bar and all these other things. So what I want is somebody, and I don't care how old they are, or I just want someone who's experienced enough to know exactly what they need to do.
I feel like I got specifically into this line of work whilst I was at uni. I did a performance and visual art course at Brighton Uni, and within that you had to document your performances, and I really enjoyed not only doing that for my own work, but I really enjoyed capturing other people's work as well. From like a young age I was always really interested in taking photos, and I didn't really start filming until I was in uni in the first year, where we got introduced to one of the projects was a puppet film, and that was the first time that I'd ever filmed anything and used any editing program and software.
I've always kind of done creative things, so I did A-levels in music, theatre studies and media studies, and then went on to uni to do a degree in communication arts. And then after that I decided to move to Brighton and didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I did work in the youth work service because I knew that I wanted to work with young people and the arts in some way. And then finally I kind of took the leap and decided that I wanted to start something of my own. So with my colleagues Louise and James, we were talking for a long time about working with the arts and how we could give opportunities to young people. So we started Lookout and I became a freelancer, and then started working with Big Egg Films and Komedia Productions, which is the charity arm of Komedia. It's also taught me to be quite resilient because things might not always go as you plan.
So for me, I kind of fell into freelancing because I was being hired to do specific projects, and then I was thinking, well, I want to go travelling, I want to do other things, I don't want to just be 9 to 5 in the same place doing the same thing with the same people all the time. I want to work on lots of different things and have that flexibility. So I always loved sort of working with artists and photographers and creative people, and I knew that my skill was more around organising and helping them get the best out of them. And it's not just about making sure that they get the work done at the right time. It was more about making sure that they're producing the best work, keeping them motivated. For years I had a job and then my freelance stuff on the side. So I think for most people that's helpful. Then you don't get that scaredness about like it's just a second job. Basically, you've got a second job.
I would say you need to just try different things, and you just have to take every opportunity that's given to you. Get to know people, talk to people, go to as many events as you can, and just basically work hard and show enthusiasm for learning in any line of work you do. It might be scary, but the thing is, having people around you to support you and encourage you is really important. And I think I just listened to people who mattered to me and who I respected and took their advice and went for it.
I think starting out, my biggest piece of advice would be not worry what other people are doing and what equipment people are using. Focus on your product, focus on what you're doing and who you are in your job, because everything else will follow. I'm doing what I'm doing, they're doing what they're doing, and it's not a competition.
I think it's just really important that people follow their heart, and what they want to do, but also not freak themselves out because if they're not going to make a lot of money at the beginning. But eventually you'll get to a point where you'll work out, okay, it takes me a day of my time to go and do a shoot at a wedding, for example. My friend's mum wants me to come and do her wedding for her, and at the beginning you might do that for free, or you might do it for 50 quid or something like that. And then as you do more of those sorts of jobs, you get more confident in what you're doing. You might find a sort of little niche of what you like. Then you can start raising your prices, if you like. Everybody these days has to have a website or presence on social media, and it has to reflect that work. So making sure that you say, like, if you meet someone randomly who says, I need someone, or what do you do, you've got to have somewhere that they can go to see your work.
Networking is a word that you see everywhere. I always feel like it's this idea that you go around and you give your business card to people, and you've got one agenda, and that's to get work from someone or to get someone to work with you. The way I see it within the creative industry is that networking is finding people that you like the work they do, but also that you like to work with them, like as people. For me personally, I like to reach out to people online, on Instagram especially. I think it's a really lovely environment to just drop someone a message or comment and just be like, I really like what you're doing, or this is a great picture, or this music's great, and that could be like a first step of making contact with people.
Networking is a funny thing because, like, as long as you leave the house sometimes, right, you could bump into someone in the street that you haven't seen for ages, and they'll go, I'm really struggling because I need someone to like do some filming for me and I don't know how to do it. And then you might go, I know how to do that, or let's try and do a project together. The best people, that the most talented people have been people who've like just done stuff off their own back. They're not expecting any money for it. They're creating their own projects. These days, there's no excuse. If you want to try something out, just try it out. And people, even if you don't have enough work experience, at least you've done some of your personal projects. I think the most important things are to start with the people that you already know. So if you want to start telling people, change your profile biography to artist, photographer. You can just start calling yourself that, and then people will come to you and start asking you to do bits of work for you. Build a mailing list or collect people as you go along, so you've got that person in your network. So many times I used to feel like scared of like putting something on Facebook to say, I'm doing this event, or I've got some time to do some, I'm available for work, or does anyone know a photographer? And then what happens is loads of people who I've forgotten about will come back to me and say, oh, I know a photographer, or I know this person. And people love to help and always ask for a review or a recommendation from that person, so you can collect those and put them on your website, or you can just make little Instagram cards for those, or just having them as a list in a document somewhere is always really helpful.
My 5 top tips for being a freelancer would be: 1, know what's going on in your industry, maybe specifically in your area, like who are the people that you know are doing stuff similar to you, or that you like what they're doing, or that you want to work with. I don't think there's any harm in having a wish list of people that you'd really love to work with. I definitely had a few people that a few years ago I was like, oh God, I'd love to work with them, and now I've been able to. It wasn't written down, but there was a bit of a fangirl in me that'd be like, oh God, it'd be so good to do stuff with this person. Secondly, value what you do. I think if you value yourself, and it sounds really cheesy, but if you value yourself, other people will value you too. 3, looking after yourself, making sure you're not pushing yourself too much, not burning the candle at both ends. 4, being available and being an easy person to work with in terms of emailing back, phone calls, text messages, even if it's, I'm really busy, I'm really sorry, can we catch up next week? I think that's really important. And I think 5, I think as a freelancer, you are your work as well, you are your job. You know, you're not an employee of someone else's values, like you are you. And I think there's nothing wrong with making your work an extension of you. People will hire you for your skills, but they will also hire you as a person. I think being nice to people and respecting them can go a long way.
Yeah, always make sure that you communicate really clearly, and always ask if you don't understand something or want to know something about the job, and be organised and on time and professional. Don't treat your client like, or potential clients like your mates. Just be yourself, you know, but put yourself in their shoes, because they just want the work to be done and they want to give you the work, but they also want to make sure that you can do it. Make sure you get paid as well at the end of it. That is the most important thing.
If there's any young person out there that just wants a bit more advice or anything specific, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. My website is www.rosiepowellfreelance.com. And on there's my email address, or you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and I will definitely get back to you. But yeah, I think reaching out and talking to people is so important, so I would 100% be happy to offer up any more advice that I haven't done so already.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lookout podcast. I'd like to thank Jay Felix for allowing us to use his music in the background of this episode, and PropellerNet in Brighton for offering up space and equipment for us to use. In our next episode, we'll be hearing from Helen Fraser, who will be talking about her career in the film and television industry.